Warning, this video may contain content that may not be suitable for children or anyone else that is easily offended. Strong language, graphic content, nudity, bad jokes, and a possible idiot, aka myself, may be featured in the following clip. Viewer discretion is advised. Channel is not responsible for any damages that you receive watching this video. What's up, y'all? It's Zims and welcome to another reaction video. We're going to be reacting to another Mrballen video. Top 3 places you can't go to but people went anyway. Just ask Amelia Earhart when she got jumped by a bunch of coconut crabs. She got jumped by a delicious seafood platter on the beach while she was asleep. And them things, you might say, what, a crab? A delicious crab dipped in butter? Yes, a delicious crab dipped in butter times 10. Right? It was a crab on steroids. If you haven't seen that episode, be sure you go stop by and go check that out. But if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you come to the right place because that's what Mrballen does. Just look at that mustache. You can tell he can know how to tell a good story. He's senpai, guru, he's the master of horror stories. But you guys haven't already, be sure you swoop down to our description box and hit the original link to go follow him. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button for me. We're at 868 subscribers. We're right around the corner from 900. Thank you guys so much for the support and the recommendations and all the activity down in the comment section. I really appreciate it. Ooh, that was a good one. I haven't hit a good one like that in a minute.
But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right channel because that's all we do, and we upload 3, 4, even 5 times every week. So if that's of interest to you, please offer to give the like button a ride home, and as soon as they get in the car, immediately start chain-smoking cigarettes with the windows up and blare techno music at full blast, and then drop them off 40 miles.
Yeah, you don't see him laugh that often.
Blare techno music at full blast and then drop them off 40 miles away from their home. Also, please subscribe to this channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads.
Every time he says the strange, dark, and mysterious, if you don't say it with him, then you're wrong, man. The Descent. Oh, that, bro. I hope it's not like the movie.
On April 28th, 2000, a 24-year-old named Yuri was standing in front of a cafe in Dahab, Egypt, overlooking the Red Sea. He had traveled all the way to the Sinai Peninsula from Moscow in order to film himself swimming through the Arch.
Is that the same Red Sea that Moses parted?
Arch is an 85-foot-long underwater tunnel that connects a massive sinkhole right on Dahab's shoreline called the Blue Hole to the Red Sea. To get to the Arch, you need to enter the Blue Hole directly and descend straight down 181 feet, where you'll...
Bruh, the Blue Hole don't even sound like nothing nobody should be visiting. That doesn't even sound right. Doesn't it just sound sketchy just listening to it? Hey, bro, on Friday we're going down to the Blue Hole if you want to come. No Blue Hole. No Blue Hole, black hole, butthole, bro. Anything with the hole at the end of it, bro, get rid of it. You don't need it, all right? It's something bad at the end of it. Just don't go in there.
Where you'll reach the top of the tunnel on the northeast side. But there's a catch. If on your descent you happen to miss the ceiling of this arch, which apparently it's pretty easy to do, you run the risk of going too deep.
Red flag.
Going too deep does not mean you're going to miss the tunnel altogether.
Excuse me.
The arch actually starts at 181 feet, but then goes all the way down to 393 feet. So it's a huge opening. The risk of going too deep has to do with how your body responds to the type of gas you're breathing. For those who are unfamiliar with diving, generally speaking, you have 2 types of dives. There's recreational diving, where you breathe the same air that you breathe on the surface. They literally jam air directly into scuba bottles. You breathe that, and you go down to 130 feet. That's the recommended bottom depth that you would go down breathing regular air. And then there is technical diving, where you breathe a mixture of gases. Typically, it's going to be a mixture of helium, nitrogen, and oxygen.
Bruh, tell me why I was thinking of skydiving and scuba diving. I'm an idiot.
Allow you to go below 130 feet. This type of diving is exponentially more dangerous and requires all sorts of additional training. Because the minimum depth you would need to go to in order to access the arch is 181 feet, that puts you well in the technical diving range, which means you should be diving mixed gas and have special training and equipment. But year after year, people try to dive down to the arch and go through it on regular air.
And get clapped.
Year after year, people die doing it. When your body absorbs too much nitrogen, you can get something called nitrogen narcosis, which is a lot like being drunk. And in extreme cases, divers who get this are known to remove their mouthpiece and inhale water believing they are actually on the surface.
Which is crazy to believe. Like, this kind of reminds me of hypothermia, which is kind of weird because you get so cold that you start stripping your clothes off because your body thinks that you're hot. And it's weird. Like, that's kind of weird how that works. Like, you get so cold, your body thinks you're hot, and then you start stripping your clothes off and you eventually just freeze to death. But now this one, nitrogen narcosis, or narcosis that he said, it makes you think you're above surface and you're not. And you take your mask off and you drown. I wonder if the body, like, are you aware? It's kind of like sleep paralysis. Are you aware that you're drowning, or you're in that mindset, like, you know what, I'm on surface. So I'll probably do some research on that because I'm not too sure.
Below 130 feet, your body absorbs nitrogen much faster, and regular air is a whopping 78% nitrogen. So the risk of getting nitrogen narcosis is exponentially higher if you're breathing regular air below 130 feet. Also, oxygen can become toxic the deeper you go in the water column.
I didn't know that.
It can lead to blackouts and convulsions that if you don't have someone there to literally physically move you up in the water column, you won't recover from it and you'll die. Regular air contains 21% oxygen, which is a lot of oxygen. So if you're diving regular air below 130 feet, you are at an increased risk of developing O2 toxicity. Now, to be clear, it is possible on regular air to dive down to 181 feet and make it through the arch and come out the other side and be just fine.
What did he say? O2 toxicity? I didn't know you could have too much oxygen. I thought more oxygen was a good thing, but shoot, I guess not. I guess too much of anything is toxic.
But you're realistically at 181 feet, pushing the absolute boundary of what you can get away with on regular air. Below 200 feet, you're probably dead. So if you're attempting to swim through the arch on regular air, you need to be paying very close attention to your depth as you descend so that you don't miss the arch and accidentally drift down below 181 feet to the very deadly 200 feet and beyond. So earlier in the day, Yuri had gone down to the edge of the blue hole.
You need to put signs up.
The diving instructors that taught inside the blue hole. His name was Tarek Omar, and he asked him if he'd be willing to take him down to the arch to help him film himself going through the arch. And Tarek said, yes, but I need to train you for 2 weeks before you're going to be considered qualified to do that. And you need a special setup with a special gas mixture to do this dive.
Let me guess, he didn't have that time.
Well, I'm leaving in 2 days to head back to Moscow, so I need to do this dive now. Is there any way you can do it today or tomorrow even? And Tarek was like, no, that's not.
Good job, Tarek.
And Tarek understood this more than anybody else, because in addition to teaching diving at the Blue Hole, Tarek's job was to dive down to the bottom and retrieve the dead bodies of inexperienced or overconfident divers that attempted the archway and didn't make it. Although there is not an official body count of how many people have perished inside of the Blue Hole, locals believe it's as high as 200 people just in the last decade. After Tarek was unwilling to take him without properly training him.
Without properly training him, I'm pretty sure he decided to go on his own because he wanted to catch footage and go back home and show his people. But what he don't know is him and his camera are about to be stuck down there and he's going to die. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen, unfortunately. Just wait, man, or just come back another time. Your life is not worth it, bro. That water is not, Blue Hole ain't going nowhere, bro. Now you're going to that great big hole in the sky because you decided to go down there.
Fitting him with the right equipment, Yuri thanked him and went on to a couple different other diving instructors with the same request. Will you take me in the next couple of days? And they all said, no, we need to train you and you need special equipment. And so finally, after no one was willing to do this, Yuri just left. Later that day, owners of cafes that overlooked the Blue Hole remember seeing a young man who was by himself walk to the edge of the Blue Hole. He puts on all of his scuba gear, he puts on a helmet and then straps a big camera to the top and ratchets it down. And then after he's got all his stuff on, he jumps into the Blue Hole and he disappears.
Never seen again.
It was Yuri. A few days later, Yuri's family back home in Moscow did not see him get off the flight he was supposed to be on, and they reported him missing. Tarek Omar was contacted to go down into the Blue Hole and see if Yuri was down there.
Hard-headed.
Tarek hopped in the Blue Hole, he went to the bottom, and sure enough, lying face down at the bottom was Yuri. When they brought Yuri to the surface, they realized his camera had been running the whole time, and he had actually filmed his final moments. Yuri's final video exists online so you can watch it for yourself, but here is a description of what happens. After situating his camera on his head just the way he wanted it, he hit record, and then he jumped into the water. It was determined later on that Yuri was breathing regular air out of his tanks. The camera submerges under the water, and then Yuri begins to sink very quickly into the Blue Hole. But his breathing seems normal, and he's not thrashing around, so it seems like it's a controlled descent. But at some point...
Can you guys understand my frustration right now? If you're going around and you're telling every experienced diver in that area, town, city, wherever you're at, and they all tell you no and that you need training, is no red flags popping off right now? Like, hey, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or maybe I should wait till next time. Maybe I actually do need training. All these people are telling you no for a reason, because it's dangerous. And you're gonna go with your one little oxygen tank that you had no business doing in the first place, and you died. Like, it sucks that he died that way. I think that was a stupid way to die, because it's just like, they told you. Not one, but 4 or 5 diving instructors told you the same thing, bro. Like, what are you doing? Why are you still gonna go down there? All 4 of them told you no. All 5 of them told you no. Hard head makes a soft ass.
Buoyancy compensator. Basically,
Man.
it's this life jacket, to describe it simply, that sits on your gear, that you have a demand valve where you can inflate and deflate the air into it to neutralize your buoyancy. Or in an emergency situation, you can fully inflate it and stop yourself from sinking. In fact, you'll rise to the surface. But he's trying to activate his buoyancy compensator to slow down his descent, and the air is escaping his compensator. There's a leak, he can't slow down his descent. Now, Yuri was wearing a weight belt, which is very common in diving. In fact, I don't really know of all that many dives that you wouldn't use a weight belt. And any diver knows that there is a quick release function on your weight belt. Specifically, if you're in an uncontrolled descent, or if you're in an emergency situation and need to get to the surface, you can jettison your weight belt and go to the surface. But Yuri was panicking, and he was fixated on his buoyancy compensator that he was desperately trying to activate, and it was failing, and so he's not going for his weight belt. And then he rockets past the entrance to the arch.
I can't see what that is.
181 feet. He goes below 200 feet, and he goes all the way to the bottom, where he hits the bottom at 392 feet. And then
392
feet. The
feet.
blue hole was actually at an angle, and that archway went all the way to the bottom of the hole. And if you slipped out of the blue hole, it was a sheer drop-off for thousands of feet. And you see on camera, Yuri rolls over and he's desperately clawing into the mud to stop himself from sliding out of the blue hole to definite death. And he's trying to get himself to stop, and finally he anchors himself in the dirt. And it's calm for a second, and he's kind of looking around. It's very clear he's confused, and then it goes still. And it's believed at this point he either removed his mouthpiece because of nitrogen narcosis, he pulled it out and inhaled water, or he was dealing with O2 toxicity and he blacked out and the mouthpiece came out. But either way, he drowned.
What have we learned today, kids? No means no. Someone tells you no, then it's no. Don't try to go out and see for yourself, or there will be consequences. Not saying it's death, but there will be some type of injury. If you're trying to do something, like you're trying to do some expedition or live on the wild side, just make sure you know what you're doing, man. Swiss cheese. And I don't think it's a good Swiss cheese.
From Johannesburg in South Africa lies Sterkfontein Cave. The cave is famous for the fossils that have been found there, and also for its underground lake, whose walls look like Swiss cheese. There's all these tunnels that
that's
spider
beautiful.
all over the place. Many of them are unexplored, and no one knows how deep the cave actually goes. In 1984, cave diver Peter Verhusel, along with 2 of his friends, decided they wanted to explore these passageways in the lake, and specifically they wanted to check out a chamber called Milner Hall, which was fairly far down in the lake. There was a guideline that was anchored from the surface of the lake all the way down into the different sections that had been explored, and this was so cave divers could hold on to it and make their way through without getting lost. Not that I've ever been cave diving, but from what I've read, there is one golden rule. You never let go of the guideline. And if you do, it better be extremely well planned, and you should do it with other divers present. Peter was a notorious risk taker and was the least experienced cave diver of the 3. When they entered the lake, they were all holding the guideline, and Peter was the 3rd back. And so they began descending down into the lake, and at some point, Peter's curiosity got the better of him, and he left the line to go look at the wall where there was, something he wanted to look at. And luckily, the other 2 divers noticed it, they saw him, and they swam over and got him and brought him back to the
There you go.
And even though you can't communicate underwater, I'm sure they looked at him like, come on, don't do that. And they kept...
Yep, there it is. First red flag right there. Tried to break off and do his own thing. Like, why even join the expedition if you're going to go off and do your own thing, man? This is exactly why I stay on land, so after I have a fighting chance if something ever goes down. I may still die. I may still get beat up by a lion or tiger, but at least I have a fighting chance. Now, if a shark rode up on me, what am I going to do? My punch is about to be mad slow. Like, they're about to be like in the same way like when you have dreams. I'm about to be like, oh, it's coming for me.
Going down, and then once again, Peter's curiosity gets the better of him. He leaves the guideline and goes over and checks something else out. The other 2 divers notice again. They turn around, they grab him, and they pull him back. And now they're looking at him like, you can't do this.
Shout out to my swimmers. I couldn't do it.
Body language indicated that he got it, and he was back on the guideline. He's not going to do it again. And they continue down, and they're getting closer to Milner Hall when the first two turn around to check on Peter, and he's gone. And now previously, when they found him those other two times when he left the guideline, he was just over right against the wall. It was easy to spot. But this time, he wasn't. They're looking around with their lights, and he's nowhere to be found.
Well, there it is.
And they're
Chupacabra
not
got him.
to go leave into one of these tunnels to go looking for him because there was so many. It was like Swiss cheese down there with all these different tunnels he could have gone into, and they didn't know which one he went in. And so after kind of waiting and looking around for a couple of minutes, thinking maybe he'll come back, they were running out of air and they had to go to the surface. So the two men surface, they call the police, they explain what happened. Rescue divers are sent to the cave to go looking for Peter.
And they found
him. By
him.
the time they even got there, it had been several hours. It takes a while to mount this type of search, and Peter only had one tank of air. And so if he hasn't surfaced by now, the thought is he's drowned at this point. But the rescue divers go into the lake, they head down to the area where Peter was last seen, and they look around and they can't find him, and they surface pretty quickly, and they say, look, we're just not prepared to look through all these different tunnels he could have gone in just to find his body. Because at this point, there's no way he's alive. He's been down here for hours, he doesn't have enough air, and one of the rescue divers, is going to get trapped in one of these tunnels, and we don't want to lose anyone, so we're terminating the search. Peter's friends are devastated, and they say, hey, can you let us go down and look for Peter's body for his family? And the police said, no, we're banning diving in this cave.
There you
6
go.
weeks after Peter went missing inside of this lake, a group of dry cavers were doing some work in a chamber that was right next to this underground lake. And they were chiseling this wall when all of a sudden the wall kind of collapsed, revealing another chamber on the other side of this wall.
Get out of here, bro.
Flashlight out and they looked inside, and it looked like a tunnel that kind of weaved around the corner. And they shined their light on the ground, and it looked like there were some muddy or sandy footprints that were left, as if someone had been walking right there. The cavers were initially terrified, the idea that there's anything living behind the walls inside of a cave. But they stepped over and they walked around the corner and...
Bruh, they better hope they got shotguns, because if it's anything like that movie Descent where them things had like diapers on and they was like running around the cave and eating people and biting fingers and kneecaps off and stuff, bro, they better be prepared to fight. And if this dude is alive, bro, 100% he's a demon. He's a ghost, or him and Jesus are best friends. There is no way that you've been down there for several hours and you're still alive. I don't know how he found a pocket so he can walk around and do all that stuff in, but this man's extremely lucky if he's alive right now. 100%.
Revealed this huge air pocket that clearly was connected to the underground lake, because there was water right in the middle of this air pocket and there was no other way in besides, this wall that's collapsed. And in the middle of the water, there was this island. It was like this sandy, muddy, rocky island right in the middle of this air pocket. And laying on the island was Peter. In a stroke of luck, after Peter went missing from his dive, he had discovered this air pocket, and he had surfaced and climbed onto this island. He knew he didn't have enough air in his air tank to get to the surface again, and so he figured, okay, I'll just sit on this island. There seems to be enough air in here for me. I'll wait.
Lucky, man.
Go get help and come down here and rescue me. He sat inside of that air pocket for 3 weeks, waiting for a rescue that never arrived. Before he ultimately died of starvation, he wrote a message in the sand to his mother and to his wife, telling them that he loved them.
I take that back. Him and Jesus aren't best friends. What? 3 weeks, bro? You have to have some kind of determination. Me personally, even though I didn't have enough air in my tank, I probably would have still risked it. Like, especially like after that 1 week, that first week without eating and stuff, bro. Shoot. 3 weeks, that's a long time without eating to die of starvation. 3 weeks is a very long time. Yeah, man, that's crazy. I thought he was going to be alive, the footprints and stuff. If they would have came 1 week earlier, my mans would have still been alive. What have we learned today, kids? Stay with the group. Don't do anything that's outside the regulations or the policies. Make sure you follow your group. Do not stray away. If you do, at least let the next person know where you're going so they can have at least some kind of sense of what area or place you're going to go to. Man, like these people are just dying outrageous because of this dumb stuff. That was stupid. Like, why would you break off and go somewhere you know nothing about? And the last dude, Jesus.
To this day, diving is prohibited inside of Sterkfontein Cave.
If not me, then who? Who stole the cookies off the cookies?
A little after 1:30 in the morning on June 17, 2017, 34 U.S. Navy sailors were asleep inside of berthing compartment number 2 on the USS Fitzgerald. Their berthing compartment was below the waterline, meaning where they were sleeping was underwater. They were sailing along through the South China Sea when all of a sudden there is this explosion in the berthing compartment and a rush of cold air. The explosion was a 30,000-ton container ship crashing into them, gouging an opening in their wall bigger than a semi-truck. Before any of the 34 sailors could make sense of what was happening, tens of thousands of gallons of seawater are pouring into their compartment.
Oh, no.
The sailors were sleeping in what they called coffin lockers, which were these bunk beds where the bunks were stacked 3 high, and the lowest bunk was practically on the ground. And so as soon as the water came pouring into the room, everybody who was sleeping on a lower bunk was immediately completely submerged in water, and all the furniture inside of the space was lifted up by the rush of water, and a few unlucky sailors who were in those bottom bunks were trapped by furniture that landed right in front of their bunk. The sailors immediately jumped into action, leaping out of their bunks, pulling people out of those lower bunks. Everybody's trying to help each other out to get to the exit, which was a ladder that led up to a hatch in the ceiling. The sailors inside of this space...
Can you imagine getting a good night's sleep and you just hear a boom, and as soon as you hear the boom, you're just covered in water. You don't know what's happening. You probably think it's a prank. You probably thought like you're just having a dream or something. You're just trapped in water with furniture on top of you, bro. That's some scary stuff, man. You just sleeping, especially if you're on the bottom bunk. If you're on the top bunk, you kind of got some time to look down and see what's going on. But if you're on that first bunk, by the time you open your eyes, it's already too late. Bro, I can't do water, man. Like, I can do, like, backyard pools and stuff like that, but I hate getting into the water, whether it's the ocean, lakes, rivers, anything that can potentially, like, drown or take me away or something. I'm terrified of it. I can't do it. That's why I said salute to my swimmers and divers out there. Let me know if you're a swimmer, diver, lifeguard, whatever it is they have to do with swimming. Man, I kind of want to do scuba diving, but if you're any of those people, let me know down in the comment section. Let me know why you like swimming, because swimming is terrifying for me. Good exercise, but extremely terrifying.
Very close with each other. Pretty much 24 hours a day, they were always within a few feet of each other. And so that explains why, as the water was rising and rising, getting up to their necks, they formed an orderly line as they all made their way up this ladder through this hatch. As they waited in line to get out of the space, the water was getting so high that they were tilting their heads to barely be able to breathe the space that was left inside of the room. And when the water is really cold, you involuntarily open your mouth. And so water was pouring into their mouths, making it very hard to breathe. As each man climbed the ladder and went through...
When that cold water hits you, you know you do that, you know what I'm saying? Y'all know what I mean.
...hatch to relative safety, they would turn around and help the next guy up. And they remembered hearing this hissing sound, which was the sound of all the air being forced out of the compartment through this hatch as it filled with seawater. And then finally, the survivors that had made it out of the hatch were able to pull the last few guys that were in line to go up the ladder. They pulled them out, and then they realized they're short 8 sailors. But they're faced with this terrible decision because they need to shut the hatch and seal it. It's a procedure inside of a sinking ship to keep it from sinking. If they don't shut this compartment, they run the risk of killing more people on board the ship. And so they decided
they gotta close it.
A couple of extra seconds, and they begin yelling, "Come to the sound of my voice," in hopes that anybody that's still down there could hear them through the water and would swim to them.
Man, that's a tough decision, man. I know you had to wait a few more seconds, but just shutting that hatch and knowing that you're potentially killing 8 people, but you're potentially saving thousands. No life is more like greater than the next, but just you saving millions. Obviously, you still have to make that sacrifice. But dang, man, those 8 people, somebody, dad, brother, cousin, uncle. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a tough decision. Just thinking about that is just it's horrifying. Just to know that people are still down there and you have to close the hatch.
And then before they shut it, they poked their head down and looked, and they saw a glimmer of what looked like a man swimming away from the ladder. And they're thinking, why are they swimming away? Don't they know they need to come here? And they're yelling to this person, come back, swim to our voice. And then moments later, this burly sailor from Arizona named John Meade came out of the darkness and clambered up the ladder, and they pull him out, and he's coughing and he's gagging, and he said, "Gary Ream saved me. I was behind a locker. He pulled me out."
Oh, that's the guy that went back.
That saw that man swimming away from the ladder farther into the compartment, that they had tried to stop, that they had tried to get back to them. That wasn't John Meade. That was Gary Ream. He was intentionally swimming back to save these guys.
And he died.
In a cruel twist of fate, they had to seal the hatch, with Gary and 6 others still inside. At 37 years old, Gary Ream was a veteran of the ship. He referred to the other sailors as his kids, and when they were on land, he would invite them over to his house for holiday meals. He was approaching 20 years of service, and was planning to retire soon, and move back to Virginia with his family and become a fireman. Gary was asleep inside of berthing compartment number 2 when the crash happened, and instead of going up the ladder to safety, which he could have done, he was near the ladder, he instead decided to make multiple trips into the far back section of the compartment, which is where the most people were trapped by furniture, either in their bunks or in the bathroom stalls. And he went back over and over and over again, knowing full well that once this water reaches the ceiling, they are going to seal the hatch. He's been in the Navy almost 20 years. He knows the procedure. But Gary loved his kids.
Good job, Gary, man. Bro, show some love for Gary in the comment section. Like, just say something, man. Like, that's incredible, man. Show some type of love. You got a heart, man. Show some love for Gary. 19 years in, this man was 1 year away from retiring, and he would have been done. He could have been at home with his wife, if he have kids, chilling, bro. He decides to stay back. Like, he could have easily did what everybody else did and just grabbed up the hatch and save themselves. He was like, no, I'm going to go back and save as many as I can before they shut the hatch. He managed to save some people, so, man, shout out to Gary. Like, these are the kind of stories that you don't hear about. Like, if he didn't tell me about this, I would have never heard of it. And I'm glad he shares stories like this, because people like Gary, man, you gotta have respect. You gotta have, he got balls of steel, bro. A lot of people say, I'll do the same thing if I was in that situation, and they probably wouldn't.
19 of the 27 surviving sailors credit Gary for saving their life. So that's gonna do it, guys.
Wait, how many?
He found the secret, and on this day he did. 19 of the 27
19, bruh.
Gary for saving their life. So that's gonna do it, guys. If you found the secret in
19 people. This man helped save 19 people in that short amount of time. The man was a beast.
today's episode, let us know in the comments what it is and where you found it, so give us the timestamp. And if you're the first to do that, we'll pin you at the top of the comment section. If you enjoyed today's video and you haven't done this already, please offer the like button a ride home. And as soon as they get in, roll up the windows, start chain smoking cigarettes, blast techno at full volume, and then drop them off 40 miles away from their house. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly 3, 4, even 5 video uploads. If you want to get in touch with me, you can direct message me on Instagram or on Twitter. My username for both platforms is the same. It's just JohnBallen416. I also have a ton of content over on TikTok where my username is Mrballen. If you have a story suggestion, please submit it to our subreddit just called Mrballen. It's linked in the description below. So whether I see you on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, or some combination, just know that I really appreciate your support. And until next time, that's going to do it. See you.
I don't know how that classifies as a place that you can't go, but people went anyway. Because, I mean, he was serving on the Navy. So, I mean, unless you mean, like, he shouldn't have went back to get him. But I don't see how that last one counts as a place you can't go. But you guys haven't already, be sure you slide down in that description box and hit the original link to go watch the video in its entirety without me stopping and talking through it. But this was a really good one, man. Thank you guys so much for stopping by and watching this with me. It was a really, really deep story. If you guys have any more recommendations on his channel or what videos you would like me to react to, feel free to let me know down in the comment section. But again, thank you guys for watching, and see you guys next time.